What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry, the Ginger Runner, here for another Ginger Runner Live. This is episode number 19. We're just reaching our mature age here. We're almost into our 20s, which is ridiculous. Today, I don't really know how to set up today's show other than by saying it's going to be the most epic Ginger Runner Live show ever. Perhaps I might be setting it up for failure, but we have easily our biggest guest yet. It is the one and only Ultramarathon man, Mr. Dean Karnazes. Thanks for joining us, man. Dean Karnazes.
I'm only 5'9". I'm not that big.
I don't believe you. You're a big man in my mind, and you have a ton of fans out there who I know are going to be watching this show live. And if you miss it live, you can always catch it in the podcast version too. But again, I'm really excited for today's show. We're going to be talking to Dean about events that he's completed in the past. We're talking to him about his books, diet, training tips, stuff like that. I'm going to try to ask him every question that I've had in my head since reading Ultramarathon, man, years ago. So get ready, guys. Here we are with Ginger Runner Live. Ginger Runner. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm so excited, everybody. Today's guest, I've been a fan of this guy for years. I have to give him credit for being one of the main sources of inspiration for getting into ultra running. I was running marathons for a number of years and was having a blast doing it, but then you read a book like Ultramarathon Man, where this guy is telling the story about going beyond that distance, and you can't help but be inspired. So without further ado, here he is, the man, the legend, Mr. Dean Karnazes. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show, Dean. It is an honor to have you here.
Well, how much do I owe you for that glorious introduction?
2,000. I think it's 2,000 for the glorious introduction, and it's 2,500 for the rest of the compliments throughout the show. That's it. That was...
I hope you're giving me that in footsteps, not in dollars.
I'm sure you can handle the footsteps. Yeah, for sure. Before I get too deep into our conversation, I know that we have you for a chunk of time today. The first question, and this is going to be everyone's first question, I know it. How do you get these? Like, I want these. How do you get these, Dean?
You run a couple hundred miles a week for a couple decades, and you run a lot of hills, and all of a sudden it just happens.
They are the most insane calves on any human I think I've ever seen. They're amazing. Great work.
I gotta say, it kind of runs in my family. I mean, I have relatives that are not athletic. And I mean, these old Greek women, and they're in their 70s. And you look at their calves, you're like, "Holy, where did she get those calves?"
Yeah,
I'm 100% Greek. And my dad always insists we're from the same village in the hills of Greece as Phidippides, the original Greek marathoner.
Yeah.
But I always tell him, Dad, we grew up in Southern California. What village are you referring to there, buddy?
Well, they're impressive. And not only those, but your resume. I mean, obviously, I would assume that everyone watching today's show is fully aware of who Dean Karnazes is. If you don't, I actually have a little video. I have a little introduction video that kind of explains who Dean is, what he's done. It's an inspiring story. It's pretty incredible. Check this out.
The only way I knew how to succeed was to try harder than anyone else. Dogged persistence is what got me through life. But here was something I was half decent at.
Your next guest holds the record for the longest uninterrupted run in history, 262 miles.
Mega marathon runner Dean Karnazes has hit the road for a coast-to-coast run.
Dean Karnazes is on the run again.
My grandmother used to tell me everything in moderation, and I never listened to her words.
If he can do 50 marathons on 50 stages for 50 consecutive days, I can do one.
I love running these extreme distances in some of the most extreme elements on Earth. It's what I live for. It's me. I think that mentally has really improved my odds of taking on anything. Sometimes it's just nice to get away and just be in your own head for an hour.
maybe he could send a satellite signal, everyone who's watching TV, and say, "Hey, you watching TV, get off the couch and start running."
He's exactly what ultra running wants. Ultra running is about as selfish of a sport you can be in, because it's just you really running for endless hours, but he has somehow turned it into a very unselfish thing.
Love it. Love it. So that is our guest, obviously fairly experienced in the ultra running realm. You are 51 years old? Or are you 51 or 52?
I'm actually, what am I now? Let's see, I'm 29. Because when I hit 40, I started going backwards. Like my life is out in back course.
Yeah.
I'm on my way home now.
So you've been running for how many decades then? You've been running since you were a kid. But when did you really get into ultra running, would you say?
It's been over 20 years. Yeah, 2 decades of pretty hardcore long distance running.
So I think for me, that's one of the most inspiring things about you, is not necessarily you're able to run 350 miles at once, which is incredible, do back-to-back marathons. It's the fact that you are able to do these distances even after 20 years of running them. What are some of your tips for those of us who maybe are in our infancy in the ultra running realm, or even running shorter distances, marathons, half marathons, stuff like that? What are things that we can do on a regular basis that might allow us to continue to run? That longevity is really important to all of us.
Well, I'm a big proponent of cross training. So I think cross training is invaluable as far as injury prevention and overall strength building. So I wouldn't say just run. Too many people I know that are just runners end up being an injured just runner. They might be elite runners, but they spend a lot of time on the sidelines with injuries, and they might not have kind of the staying power, to hang around for 20 years. So I would say cross-train like crazy. I would also say, mix up your terrain. If you can run hills, if you can run out on trails, I would highly recommend it, where you're not just getting that repetitive foot strike mile after mile, kind of like when we run those road marathons, right, Ethan?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so hit the trails. Build your endurance, your base by doing long runs. Don't wear a GPS. Just unplug and just say, today I'm going to go for a 6 to 8 hour run. Stick some money in your pocket. Bring your cell phone. If you run by a Starbucks, feel like a latte, grab a latte. Just be on your feet for 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah, do you find yourself doing that more and more now, or has that kind of always been the thing for you, is just being able to open the door, go out, and just go for a long run? Or are you much more structured with your routine now, where you do more cross-training, you do very specific workouts? Has that changed at all in your running career?
I do both, and I've always done both, and that's why I think I haven't burned out. I really do some very specific training blocks, especially when I'm ramping up for a race. But I also like to keep it fresh and fun, and I love just heading out the door on a Friday night at 6 o'clock p.m. and running from San Francisco up to the Napa Valley, just running 60, 70 miles all night, just doing an all-night run on my own, with a headlamp and a hydration pack and, like I said, a cell phone and some dollars in my pocket. Just fun, fresh stuff like that. To me, keeps it kind of interesting, and it's not just the same thing over and over again. And I love doing things like that.
How about your family? I mean, they've obviously been supportive in everything that you've done. Just reading your books and reading stories about you and stuff like that. How do they feel about that kind of thing? Where you're like, hey, you know what? It's 10 p.m. on a Friday. I'm gonna go for a run until Sunday. Like, are they just fully supportive? Do they come join you, or how does that work?
Yeah, they just want to get rid of me. They're like, okay, Dad, we had enough of you. Get out there. No, I've got I'm blessed with the greatest family on earth. I mean, they've been so supportive of me and what I do all along, and a lot of times they join in. You know, I've traveled. I've been on all 7 continents now twice, and I think my family's probably been on 4 or 5 of them with me. So they've traveled with me. We've seen the world together, and we had a lot of fun. I mean, I once ran, I think 50 marathons in all 50 U.S. states in 50 days, and we had this just big converted school bus, and my kids came along. My mom's the next. She's a former public school teacher, middle school teacher, so she road schooled the kids for 50 days on the road, and it was just a great adventure for all of us.
I mean, that sounds awesome. You're able to bring your family on the adventures, which I think is pretty important. What's been the hardest thing about all of this? Because I know as your career has grown, you've become more popular. Your name has gotten out there a lot more. You probably do a lot more public appearances. What has been the most difficult thing about the entire process, like as your career and as your name has gotten out there?
Well, you and I touched upon this a little bit in advance of the interview. It's kind of that double-edged sword between working with your sponsors, who I very much appreciate and value, and also having that same balance where you can actually do some events yourself. I end up doing so many sponsorship engagements that I'm on the road constantly. I mean, every single weekend, if you look at my schedule, I'm traveling somewhere, and it's just really hard to get a consistent training block in if you're trying to do an event on your own. And I almost think, in a lot of ways, if I was just working for myself, I'd be able to race a little bit better because I wouldn't have so many obligations for my sponsors. But, not that I'm complaining, because I'll tell you what, I couldn't be sitting behind a desk right now looking at a computer all day. That would kill me.
Yeah. Did you at one point, have a full-time job and the running career and writing and like all that, or is this now the full-time deal?
It's become my full-time gig. I mean, I'll never forget. I just wanted to write a book. People have life lists, right? They're, kind of your bucket list, and on my bucket list was, write book. And so I wrote a book, and I thought, if 10 of my buddies buy this book, I'll be lucky. And all of a sudden, it's a New York Times bestseller, and I'm selling books everywhere, and there's appearances people want me to show up to, and I'm getting keynote corporate speaking engagements, and I thought, I could do what I love rather than being a working stiff. I can actually make a go of it through running and through kind of cross promotions, working with sponsors, kind of filling in the blanks, selling your books, doing book tours. And so at a point I said, I'm just gonna take a 6-month leave of absence and explore it. And that was maybe 5 years ago.
Wow.
The company I work for, they still call me like, Dean, come on, are you coming back? Or your desk is on your computer. I'm like, I always tell them, stop calling me. I'm not coming back.
You got to put them on the do not call list. You got to just please put me on the do not call list. I think that's what's great is that's definitely something. It was about a year ago that I made a similar decision where it was like, this is all I want to do. I love this. I'll never be the competitive elite guy, but there's stories out there still to be told, whether through film or through blogging or through these sort of live interviews or anything like that. So it's that leap of faith, and I definitely I look at what you've done, and it's really inspiring, and it's continuing to inspire millions of people, old, young, large, small, across the globe. It's really, really cool. And I want to remind those of you who are watching this right now live, we are live, and we are taking questions for Dean. So it's not all just about me asking Dean questions. If you have any questions for Dean, things that you've been wanting to tell him, secrets, revealing secrets, I don't know if we want to be able to.
We want to hear those. Oh, yeah.
It's going to be terrible.
Fun, yeah.
You can do so in the chat room, so all you have to do is just log in there and chat away. We already have a couple questions popping through, or you can use the hashtag #GingerRunnerLive on Twitter, and I'll be able to see those pretty much right away. It kind of takes it out of the hustle and bustle of the chat room, and I can just see it live. So going to the chat room, one of the very first comments, which was actually posted days ago, someone waiting for today's episode. This is from Kaiser. OMG, this is going to be live on my birthday. Best thing about it is that he is my idol. Dean Karnazes will be on the Ginger Runner. Please get Dean Karnazes to say happy birthday, Wakiak Mai. Wakiak Mai.
Wakiak Mai, is that his name or her name?
I'm guessing. It says happy birthday, Wakiak Mai.
That's not Hawaiian for like good luck or something, but
Happy birthday, good luck.
I mean, happy birthday. I'm honored that you would even want to consider me saying happy birthday to you. I think I'll spare you singing. I actually killed people before with my singing, and my dancing's not much better. But I wish you happy birthday. I'm not sure how old you are, but happy birthday, and maybe one day we'll get to run together.
I love it. Dean could potentially dance on Ginger Runner Live. It might not be something we want to see, but
you want to lose a lot of your audience real quick. Have me come on and
just see the numbers drop off instantly. It'd be insane. Tony Ochoa in the chat room says he will be running and doing the interview while eating a pizza. I was half expecting that, Dean, that you were going to be calling in live and then eating a pizza at mile like 200 or something.
Well, I mean, for listeners who don't know, my first book I wrote the story about being stranded on this 200-mile run I was doing by myself out in the middle of nowhere, and I was starving, and my crew was nowhere to be found, but I had a cell phone and a credit card. So, what does an enterprising young lad do? He orders pizza, right? So I ordered takeout on the run and had this poor delivery guy bring it to me out on this backcountry road, and I'll never live down that story. And every time I do these big runs, like when I ran across America a couple years ago, I can't tell you how many corners I came around, and there's a pizza delivery guy standing there with a pizza waiting for me.
So do you find that your diet now consists of free pizza from people just buying you pizza all the time?
That would be a fun little video segment for you and I to go for a run and just kind of hashtag send pizza and see how far we can make it. See how far we could stay fueled just on people sending us pizzas.
I guarantee you that would not be difficult to do. We would just have we'd come up with a hashtag or something, and people could just send pizzas to various blocks. As someone who, doesn't want to buy food, I think that's a great idea. So this one goes out from Twitter. This is Manu on Trail. Asks, question for Dean. Friday, my first 100K ever road version. I started at 11 p.m., got to sleep the hours before. Nutrition and rest tips. Thank you. I'm guessing he's kind of asking, should he sleep before an 11 p.m. start time and nutrition tips as well?
Well, I mean, I'll preface this answer by saying, listen to everyone, follow no one. So I'll tell you what I would do, but we're all, individuals, and we all have different unique needs. So what works for me might not work for you. This is what I would do. I personally cannot sleep before a run, and I find that if I try to sleep, I wake up groggy, and it's not worth it. So for me, I don't sleep. Now, I have other people I run with, other great runners, that if they can get a 5-minute cat nap in, they'll take it, and they do better with it. Just personally me, I can't cat nap. With regard to nutrition, what I wouldn't do is load up too much pre-race, because with an 11 p.m. start, you're not used to having a lot of food in your gut, so don't overload your gut before the race. And I would say have a lot of go-to foods, kind of quick energy foods along the way, either in your pack or at aid stations or with your crew, so that you can grab food as you're moving along. And then the next thing is a question for you: where is this race? You must live in Europe, because I don't know of any race like that in the U.S., but it sounds incredible. Even though it's on the road, which I'm not a big fan of running 100K on the road, I'd love to do this. So, if you're watching, listening, let us know where it's at.
Yeah, for sure. When I read that on Twitter, I was really curious, because we have a couple races in Southern California that are trail races that start at like 6 p.m. There's, I think the Kodiak 100 out here near Big Bear Run starts at like 6 p.m. So you actually watch the sunset as you are summiting a mountain out there, like mile 25 or 30, which that sounds crazy to me to start a race that late.
Well, I mean, you probably heard of the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, UTMB, which is a big famous race in Europe, and that starts at 7 p.m.
Right.
So that's another evening start, and it's something it takes getting used to, because you go right through that first night with no sleep, and you've probably been up most of the day, so you're pretty sleep deprived.
Yeah, it's something that I have very similar advice, which is any night before a race, I just assume I'm not going to get any sleep. I'm lucky if I get a couple hours, I'll be really, really happy. So it's those nights leading up to it. I think it's more important to get those long nights of sleep. So if it's a Sunday race or a Saturday race, I'll sleep Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night just as hard and long as I can. And then, whatever happens on the weekend happens on the weekend, and your body is hopefully rested from that week.
And yeah, I mean, similarly, I've done I've done a couple of those 200-mile relay races
Right.
solo. I've actually done done it 15 times solo, but I've also done it as a two-person team. So just me running with another ultramarathoner, and it's almost easier to run the whole distance I found on my own because in the time in that 45 minutes to an hour you get in between each of your legs. Just when you're ready to fall asleep, your partner ends up coming to the exchange, and you got to get out of the car and start running again, which is I think more disruptive being off your feet for that, those intervals versus just running the whole time.
So you were basically leapfrogging. You were doing leg 1, leg 3, leg 5, and the other was doing the evens.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's run one of these, the Ragnar or any of the relays, the format's usually the same. It's 12-person teams. Each person runs 3 legs, so there's 36 legs. When I ran it as a team of 2, we just each ran 18 legs, and we did exactly as you said. We just every other leg we changed off.
Gotcha. That's crazy. This is from the chat room, CTAM79. How many shoes does Dean go through in 1 year? This is actually a great question because I'm curious about this. We'll get to gear stuff here in a second. How many shoes does Dean go through in 1 year? How many miles per shoe? And how does he keep track?
Well, I'll tell you this. Like I said, when I ran across America a couple years ago, so I ran 3,000 miles, primarily, I would say 95% on the road. 75 days of nonstop running. Every day I averaged between 40 to 50 miles a day. In that time frame, I went through 52 pair of shoes. So
wow.
Burning through the shoes. But I also will say that I'm sponsored by the North Face. So the North Face is a great sponsor of mine. They don't make road shoes right now. Actually, they make 1 pair now, but they hadn't in the past. So I was running, basically on across America on road with trail shoes. So the treads tended to wear out a little more quickly than a road shoe would. Mm-hmm. But I tend to cycle between 3 or 4 different pair of shoes, and I look at basically I just look at the tread to see if it's time for an exchange or not. The trail shoes, I can usually get 300 to 400 miles out of them if I'm running exclusively on the trails. Now, if I'm also running a bit on the road and a bit on the trail, they tend to go a lot quicker, maybe 200 miles if I'm running a lot on the road. And that's kind of how I gauge how many shoes, how often to rotate my shoes. But I typically go through, I would say, 30 to 40 pair a year. It helps to be sponsored. You don't want to hear that because if you're paying for your shoes, that's a pretty hefty bill.
It is, but I mean at the same point, for someone who's running as many miles as you are, how many miles do you think you're putting in a week now? 150, 250?
Because of my travel schedule again, my weeks just the mileage varies. I mean, some weeks it might be 60. Other weeks, you're right, it could be over 200. Yeah. So it's that kind of variation.
Yeah, for someone who runs that many miles a week, that's to be expected that you're going to have to spend that kind of money or get that many.
You go through shoes. Yep. Yeah.
You're gonna go through shoes. So yeah, great question in the chat room from that one. This is another question from John Onate. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I think this is also dovetailing into a much larger question, which I was going to get to. So I think this is a great moment. What do you think of the global explosion in ultra running and organizations like the Ultra Trail World Tour? And I'll even kind of dovetail with that with now that ultra running is getting so big and so popular, and I feel like trail races are filling up faster. You have to be on your computer at 7 a.m. ready to log in to get into certain races. That's not always been the case, and you've been in ultra running now for a number of decades. Do you like change? Do you like that?
Personally, I think we need to kind of keep it in perspective, though. Ultra running is booming, but on a very small base. I mean, it's still just a fraction of the overall runners that run ultras versus running half marathons. Even, you know, the most popular distance still is a 5K. So I think we need to keep it in perspective. Yes, you know, these ultra marathons are becoming more and more popular with the sheer numbers. If you're an ultra marathoner and if you've been doing it for a while, you know, races where you used to show up and there used to be, you know, a couple dozen people. Now there's hundreds of people. You know, personally, I think it's fabulous. I think kind of a rising tide lifts all ships. I think it's good for the industry. I think it helps young upstart runners that want to try and make a living and carve out a living in running and ultra marathoning. So I think it's good in that regard. I also think it's a healthy pursuit. I mean, I think America would be a better place if more people ran. I think it's good for everyone. It's good for the environment. So I think it's just it's an overall win-win-win situation. The more people that show up for ultra marathons, and you know, as you said, I've been going to, you know, like marathon expos. I see you a lot at marathons, and I've been doing kind of these appearances at expos for the past couple decades, and it was so common, you know, in bygone years for people to come up to me and say, oh, you know, my goal or my dream is to run 10 marathons. Like I've run 7, I've run 8. I want to get to 10, or I want to, you know, I want to run 50. I want to be a 50-stater. I want to run a marathon in all 50 states. And now I hear more and more people saying, man, I just want to try an ultra marathon. I mean, I want to do my first 50K. How do I approach it? So there's definitely a bigger interest in ultra marathoning. And I think we're just going to continue to see that sort of growth. So I think it's a good thing. I think if you're looking to start a race, if you're looking to get into this industry, now's a perfect time to do it.
I agree. I don't know if I would have tried an ultramarathon having not read your book. I mean, I have to say that Ultramarathon Man definitely got me inspired by it. I've always been familiar with Western States. Western States has always been one of those things. I've always been a fan of it, but I never, ever thought any human I would know or any person on this planet would ever be able to do it, let alone me. And so now it's definitely on that bucket list, right? One of those races that's a bucket list item. And now, having done a handful of ultra marathons, 50, 100K, stuff like that, I cannot wait. And in fact, it's coming up in 2 weeks. I'll be going to support my good friend Sally McRae, who is running the Western States, and she's going to kick major ass. And she actually had some questions for you too, Dean. Since this is going to be her first Western, you've been to Western a number of times and placed very well, done amazing things at the race. 10 times sub 24, I believe, right? 10 out of your
12, but who's counting? Yeah.
I want to make sure I get that right, so because it's a huge accomplishment. All right, so let's see. I'm just pulling up her questions now. All right. Did you change your nutrition from race to race, like leading up to Western or anything like that? What seems to work for you nutrition-wise during these big runs?
Yeah, so I learned over the years. I learned that for me, solid food seems to work better. So I can't, I'm not big on gels. I like shot blocks. I like the margarita flavor shot blocks because of the sodium. Mm-hmm. I found that just pure, plain coconut water, unsweetened coconut water, seems to work really, really well for me for hydration. Mm-hmm. And I also found that solid foods. So kind of my go-to was almond butter, an almond butter sandwich with bananas and honey. And that seemed to have the right amount of moisture and just the right consistency that it sat pretty well in my stomach. I also have used Boost, or Ensure in certain races. And I find that works better for me than trying to stay with, some of the on-course sort of hydration products they offer. Now, again, it's, listen to everyone, follow no one. I know racers that prefer just to have liquids the whole time, or just gels even the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be an individual preference for sure. But I agree. Solid food, there comes a point in some of these long races when your body just needs food. You have a hunger inside. Whether you're doing gels or doing liquid nutrition, there just comes a point when you're like, I need to eat something. So I think that's good.
Well, I will say as well, the Western States aid stations are extremely well stocked.
Oh, okay.
And that's a good thing, but it can be a bad thing. because there's so many choices. So I would encourage her to, kind of have a feel for what foods seem to sit well with her, and then look at a list of the foods that are available at the aid stations, so that when she gets there, she kind of knows in advance, because it's overwhelming. You've got already so many things going through your head. I mean, you're thinking about, oh, are my shoes wet? Do I need to replace my shoes? Am I getting hot spots on my feet? All kinds of things are whirling through your head. And then you get to an aid station and you kind of look at this table and there's 30 or 40 choices. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend too much time there kind of looking at the choices. So kind of have an idea of what works for her, and then when she gets to these aid stations, she can just grab something. And then I assume you guys will see her at, are you going to go into Robinson Flat, or do you have a strategy kind of planned out?
They had a meeting last week. There's a crew of 4 of us. I was in Vancouver training up on those trails, so they had a meeting. I have yet to be privy to which aid stations I'll be at. But I'm assuming Forest Hill and on. We might be the second half crew for her. I'm not
Okay.
really positive yet. I have to read it up.
Well, the other thing I would
she has
encourage,
planned out.
the other thing, I mean, don't lose sight of the fact that it's one of the most amazing races on Earth. So she sounds like kind of a competitive individual, but when you get up to Granite Chief, and when you get on some of these vistas, don't be don't take it in. I mean, stop and just breathe in and look at the scenery for a second, even if you're racing hard, because it's just an amazing race, and it's something you'll never forget. I mean, my first Western States was in 1994, and you could ask me, what was going on at Devil's Sum, what was going on in Michigan's Bluff. I literally remember every single step of that 100-mile run. It's just etched upon my mind, and it's just an amazing event. And it was the most, like you said, it was the most expansive thing I'd ever done. I couldn't imagine when I first heard about this race a human being running 100 miles nonstop. I thought, there's trickery to this. I mean, there's hotels along the way, or
Yeah.
Days and days of with a heavy pack on. I couldn't imagine someone running nonstop for 100 miles in less than 24 hours. And so, don't lose sight of the fact that you're doing something incredibly heroic.
That's she's gonna love that. She's actually gonna love it.
And then I have one final tip for you, especially if you're going to be at Forest Hill and beyond. Chocolate-covered espresso beans.
Oh, brilliant!
When the going gets tough and the night
For
starts
me.
falling, just have a pack of those waiting for her, and you can't go wrong.
I can't promise there'll be any left by the time she gets there, but I'm sure I'll grab a bag. Just real quick for her as well, what do you consider the trickiest part of the race, and what is your favorite part of the race?
Well, she's probably heard about the canyons.
Yeah.
So when people say it's hot in the canyons, it doesn't do it justice. For some reason, those canyons, and you're talking to a guy who's run across, the Sahara, a guy who's done the Badwater Ultramarathon 10 times, where it gets up to 120. Those canyons are just brutal. There's no airflow. The heat, it just sucks in on you. So I like pouring water over my head. I really like keeping, when it's that hot, there's 2 systems you've got to manage. Your external system, so your skin temperature, and then your core. So I find that keeping my skin cool by pouring water on my head and keeping my clothing wet really helps. And then the other thing is chewing on ice. So getting some ice in your stomach really helps cool down your core temperature. So those canyons are vexing. I am not a big fan of the canyons. And then, to me, crossing No Hands Bridge, which is at mile 93, so you're almost
93, yeah.
to the finish. That's a pretty magical thing. And I'm trying to think this year what the moon cycle will be. I think it's going to be a half moon, I think, this year.
Okay.
But I've crossed that No Hands Bridge in a full moon, and it's intoxicating. It's a very romantic memory that I'll have, and that's a really fond thing. So hopefully she'll make it that far, and hopefully she'll be feeling good at No Hands Bridge, and you can take in the scenery.
We'll make sure that she gets there and she feels
Make
good.
sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, even if we have to We'll make sure, even if we have to carry her in a backpack or something like that in pieces.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to mention, I mean, probably, beyond the first time I did Western States, probably the most memorable time I did Western States is one time Bill Finkburner and Tim Tweetmeyer and I ran this course in the middle of winter. It had never been done before, and we waited 3 years for the avalanche danger not to be too high, and we actually ran the Western States in with snowshoes on, and
wow.
It was amazing running it in January. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. They should do an alternate version of the race in the snow. That would be incredible. This question,
idea, actually, yeah, it's a really good idea.
We'll call it the Western States race. Hashtag send pizza. This question also comes from Twitter. When you're experiencing consistent pain during a long run, what do you tell yourself to keep going? I'm sure there comes a point when you are just suffering. What do you tell yourself to push through that?
I used to kind of try to put my mind somewhere else or try to chant a mantra or something, but I don't do that anymore. Instead, I just try to be in the moment. I try to be present and in the now. It's not often we're actually in the moment of time. We're usually kind of thinking about the future, reflecting on the past. During a race, we're thinking about what's the next aid station going to bring. What should I change my shoes? This and that. I say don't do that. Put on the blinders. Just focus on putting one foot in front of the other to the best of your ability. Just be here, just be now, just be present. Don't think about the finish line. Don't think about what's behind you. Just do your best in that very present moment in time. And that's gotten me through some really deep lows before.
That's great. And that question was from Mike Lamardo. So I know we don't have Dean much longer today. I know that he's got a family to take care of, and he has to run to Napa tonight. I don't actually know if he's running to Napa. He could be.
Well,
I don't know.
The guy's going to be here in 5 minutes, so I got to
go. But before we let him go, if you guys have any last-minute questions to ask him, I know there's a ton of questions that I'm missing because they're scrolling through pretty quickly. There's a video that was created by Camp 4 Collective. We're just this amazing group of filmographers. They made this film for the North Face. The full-length film is on the North Face's YouTube channel. It's great. They posted it, I believe, like a month ago, maybe a little bit more. But here's the trailer. I want to make sure that I show this during our show because it's great. And I want, as someone who makes films, especially about ultra running, it's inspiring. So here we go. Take a look.
Dostoevsky said that suffering is the sole origin of human consciousness. And I really believe that. We never feel more alive than when we're in pain and suffering. As I've gotten older as an ultramarathoner, I don't recover as quickly as I used to. My speed is definitely nowhere where it used to be, so I have to work twice as hard to really run the same paced race. If I woke up tomorrow morning and I couldn't run, that would be the end. I can't see my existence going beyond that point. I would be devastated.
So go check it out. It's The Next 50. It's youtube.com/The North Face. It's a beautiful film, Dean. You and they did a fantastic job on it. So go check it out, guys.
Thanks very much. And you as a videographer can probably appreciate some of the footage. It's, if nothing else, watch it for the footage because there's some great shots of Death Valley, of stovepipe wells, and as well as the Marin Headlands. So it's really beautiful footage.
Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely worth it, guys. Go check it out. Before we let Dean go, I'm going to give him rapid-fire questions. These are questions that I've asked all my guests that I've had on the show. Dean, if you don't mind, just answer them as quickly as you can, kind of rapid-fire style. All right, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm not very quick on my feet, but I'll try.
It's totally fine. What was your first race?
My first race was what was my first race? I ran home from kindergarten when I was 6 years old. It was like a mile. That was the first recollection I have. And then, let's see, my first actual race is I won the state mile championships in 7th grade, and
Nice.
I ran a 4:58. That was fast. That was the fastest mile I've run in my whole life when I was in 7th grade.
Oh my God, that's
I
awesome.
was pretty fast back then, yeah.
Yeah. What's the best trail that you've ever run?
Right here in the Marin Headlands. It's always best in your own backyard. So right up the top of Mount Tam. That's my favorite.
Yeah, Mount Tam is awesome, and we'll see you in December at the North Face 50 miler too. What's your favorite running movie?
Oh man, there's a movie that's called Into the Wind, and it's the story of Terry Fox. It's an ESPN documentary, and if you want to cry, but cry in a motivational and inspiring way, buy that DVD, Into the Wind, Terry Fox story.
Scariest moment on a trail?
Scariest moment? Oh my God. Okay, so this one might take a little more than just a quick soundbite. So I'm out one night running in Marin County. And I use these backcountry roads in Marin because I don't, I like to run all night and I like not having a lot of traffic out there. So I'm way out in the boondocks running on this, backcountry road. It's 2 a.m. and I've learned something. In Marin County, you got to watch out on those backcountry roads around 2 a.m. because the bars let out.
Oh no!
Backcountry routes because they don't want to get caught, right? They don't want to go on the main thoroughfares. So I'm out there running along, and this car comes whizzing around the corner, heading right for me. And it's not that unusual. I mean, who's expecting to find some guy out there jogging at 2 a.m.? I've got a headlamp on, and I've got a reflective, blinker on. I've got a vest on, and I'm carrying a handheld flashlight. So I kind of shine the flashlight, in the windshield, kind of to alert this person, hey, I'm out here running. They don't divert their course. They keep coming right for me. And now things are starting to happen pretty quickly. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to just bail off the road. Now's a good time to jump into the hedges. And there's just a solid embankment. There's nowhere to jump. And now I'm kind of doing this head fake thing with this 2-ton mass of steel that is bearing down on me. And this car goes by me so quickly I could feel the heat of the radiator on my thigh. It was that.
Oh my God.
I stood there just thankful to be alive. And then I got a little pissed off. I thought, that person was toying with me. I mean, that person was toying with a runner in the middle of the night. That's just not right. So I gave him a fist. Ethan. Look, there's no digits extended. It was just a solid fist, and they hit the brakes. And I thought, uh-oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then they put the car in reverse. And my heart skipped. I thought, this is it. I've met my destiny out here on this, lonely country road. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Well, this car comes to a screeching halt right beside me, and this manic woman, she jumps out of the driver's seat. She runs around the car, and she starts rifling through this bag that's on the passenger seat. And I'm standing there paralyzed in fear, thinking, is she going to pull out a knife? Is she going to pull out a gun? How am I going to meet my end? She pulls out a copy of my book. She's like, she looks at it and she's like, oh my God, you're that crazy runner guy. Oh my God, it's so ironic. My boyfriend loves you. I just bought him a copy of your book. You got to sign it.
Oh my God.
I'm looking at her, just kind of trembling, thinking, oh, it's this woman. And she puts a pen in my hand. She says, oh, his name's Bob. Write something inspirational. And I felt like writing, Bob, your girlfriend is a complete psycho. Get out of this relationship, bro. I just signed Bob's book, and she just chucked it back in the car. Said, oh, thank you, he'll love this. And she got in and drove off into the night. So I've had some terrifying encounters.
I love that trumps any sort of bear encounters or crazy encounters or anything. What is the dream race for you? Dream race to run?
Well, it's still on my bucket list. I want to try and run a marathon in every country of the world in 1 year. So hopefully next year I'll set out on a global expedition to run a marathon in a 1-year time frame in every single country. There are 204 countries in the world, and I want to try and run a marathon in each and every one of them in 1 year.
That's awesome. That was actually the next question: is what's next? Is that what is next for you directly on the calendar, or do you have something else coming up immediately?
Well, I mean, I'm going to run. I'll do a couple of other, 100-milers and things. I'm going to do the Spartathlon this year, which is a 153-mile run in Greece. Whew. But as far as like my big, dream race, kind of my moonshot adventure, that's going to be the marathon in every country of the world.
I hope that you're documenting that, Dean, because that's going to be incredible.
I'm taking you with me.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Who is your idol?
Oh, I've got a lot of idols, but I've got to say my dad. He's my hero, my pops.
Your favorite post-race indulgence?
Ooh, well, I own a frozen yogurt store. Pretty deadly walking in there after a 100-miler.
And finally, who is your favorite ginger?
Oh, come on, I'm talking to him right now. Who else?
Yes!
You're my man.
Nailed it. So that is it for Dean Karnazes. I know that he's got to go, and we're going to wrap up the show here. If you guys would like to stick around for the post-show, I'll be sticking around, so just stay in the chat room, and I'll answer all of the questions that maybe didn't get answered. If they were for Dean, I can always email them to him, or Dean can come back on the show in a future episode, and we can ask him all the questions that he wasn't able to answer tonight. Dean, honestly, I have to thank you so much for taking so much time out of your busy schedule to come and join us on the show. It's been awesome to have you. Where can people find you on social media? Where can people follow you and follow your adventures?
I think it's best just to go to my website, which is just go to ultramarathon.com, and then you can learn more about me than you ever want. There's all the Twitter and Facebook and all that junk. Instagram is all on there. So depending on your preference, you can just pick from there if you have any desire to follow me.
Yeah, ultramarathonman.com, right?
Ultramarathon or just Ultramarathon. Either one.
That's great.
URL's fine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So make sure that you do go to all of his social networks, guys, and let him know. Thank you so much for appearing on Ginger Runner Live. It's been an awesome experience to have you, Dean. I very much appreciate it. And Dean, we'll get you back on the show in a future episode if you'd ever be down to do it again. Hopefully didn't scare you off too much.
You and I, we hook up, we go out for a run, and we do it live, and we have pizza.
It would be amazing. And then
espresso beans, yeah.
Yeah, I'll eat the entire bag, and then maybe someday I'll get these. This is my ultimate goal right here. It's just those. Someday. All right, so thank you so much, Dean. Really appreciate it.
People.
Dean Karnazes.
Yeah.
Right on. See you, brother.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching tonight's episode. Having Dean was a blast. He has been an inspiration of mine for years. Just reading his books and kind of hearing his stories. He's a great storyteller. But he also backs it up with actual real-world experience. Because basically all of his stories that he's telling are actual lived stories. So it's really awesome, kind of one in a kind, you know what I mean? And he definitely helped inspire me to get into the ultramarathon world, and I haven't really looked back. It's like once you kind of dabble in it a little bit, it's addicting, and that's all you really want to do is just ultramarathons. So it was a blast to have him on the show. If you guys would like to see him on a future episode, let him know. Go to his Facebook or his Twitter and just say, hey, dude, it was great to see you on Ginger Runner Live. I didn't get my question asked. Would love to get you back on the episode or on another future episode, and we'll get him back on for sure. He's a really nice dude, down to earth. But if you guys would like to follow me, make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/thegingerrunner. I post 2 videos a week. We do this live show every single Monday, which is archived immediately after we stop broadcasting, and I'll do either a review of a product or perhaps a running video. Last week I just posted a new series that I'm starting called Training for Squamish. I'm running a Squamish 50-50 race in August, which is Squamish 50-miler on Saturday and the Squamish 50-kilometer race on Sunday, back-to-back. And that's going to be an incredibly difficult undertaking, so I'm documenting some of my training for that. Hopefully, maybe somewhere along the road it will help someone else, maybe training for that race or training for another race. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go into the post-show now, which is just me going through the chat room and talking to you guys directly. So follow me on all the social networks. You can follow me on Twitter @TheGingerRunner, over on Facebook, facebook.com/TheGingerRunner, and of course GingerRunner.com for all things great and ginger. That's kind of the hub for all of my reviews and all my videos and stuff like that, or just go to this YouTube channel. Just click anywhere on the YouTube channel. You can watch all that good stuff. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Every single Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm doing Ginger Runner Live, and I'll have new guests every single week, or perhaps no guests, and I'll just talk. But next week we'll have some guests, and it's going to be the week leading into Western States, so it's going to be an awesome Western States-themed episode. We had one last week with Yassine Daboon. If you haven't seen that episode, go watch that. Next week is going to be more Western States action because it is happening in 2 weekends. You won't want to miss it. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode with Dean Karnazes, Ultramarathon Man. We'll see you guys next week. Otherwise, stick around for the post show. Awesome. That was great. What a fun show. Dean is just such like a cool, down-to-earth dude. Every interview that I've seen him do, like on television and stuff like that, they always just ask him the same questions, and so you always get the sense that he's had to ask this, or he's had to answer these questions, 1,000 times. He loves doing it. I know he loves doing it, but I wanted to try to make sure that we asked some different stuff in there tonight, so hopefully we got some good stuff. There was so much that I didn't get to, which is such a bummer. I wanted to talk gear. Since I'm such a gearhead, I wanted to talk about what shoes he's running in now, what shoes he's looking forward to running, and talk about some of the North Face gear that's coming out, stuff like that. So I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching the show. I think when I booted him from the chat or from the show, I think I blocked him. So I hope I can unblock him for the future. Google Hangouts does not make it easy to get rid of people. It's like, do you want to eliminate Dean from the live show? Yes. He is blocked. Wait, what? No. All right, so let's go through this chat room, guys. I know that I missed a lot of your guys' comments. I'm really, really sorry. We were running pretty short on time there. Ethan, I'm curious about Dean using the elliptical running bike, says John O'Neill. What are you curious about? I know that he uses it, the Elliptigo thing. I think they are one of his sponsors, but also he uses it like in his cross-training days. Like he was talking about cross-training a lot. Lane Andrews, Dean, thanks for all the inspiration over the years. You are amazing and leading the way for so many folks out here. Couldn't agree more, Lane. Colin Morrison, how do you successfully fuel on the run? I can usually fuel successfully before and after runs, but how do you do it on the run? I guess practice makes perfect, man, because it took me probably a good year before I felt comfortable actually eating a gel or eating food while I was running. But once you start doing it more and more, it becomes much more natural, much more easy thing to do. But there are certain foods that I would want to stop and eat. Like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich I tend not to eat while running because it requires a little bit more tongue action, and running and tonguing, this is going to be horrible. Running and tonguing just isn't that easy. I cannot believe I forgot to do this. So I'll do it on the post show. I'm sorry. Oh, and I got it on my laptop. That's always good. Smith & Forge hard cider. We're doing hard cider tonight. That is way too sweet. So we'll not be having a lot of that. John, Nate, Chris, I'm attending the Western States Medical Conference Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be up there on Friday. I'm volunteering at the medical check at Devil's Thumb on race day. John, great. We'll see you up there then. Dean or Ethan, I know you both run lots of shoes. Okay. Lots of shoes, lots of different brands. What is your favorite shoe and or shoe that you are currently running in? Jake, I would say for Dean, it's definitely going to be a North Face shoe. He is sponsored by North Face, and they provide all of his shoes. I wonder if he does run in other shoes, like during training and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't have a favorite running shoe because, I mean, even right now I'm running in 10 different pairs of shoes, or 9, I think, rotating between 9 different pairs of shoes, which is that's my job. Like, I want to review these shoes for you guys, so I have to make sure that I rotate frequently. So my favorite changes every new set of shoes that I get. I usually have a favorite in that set of shoes. But the shoe that I brought 2 pairs up to Vancouver when I was doing all my training there last week for the Squamish race. I brought 2 pairs of Ultras, the 1 Squared, which is my road shoe, which I ran the Big Sur Marathon in, and the Olympus, Ultra Olympus, which I have not reviewed yet as my trail shoe. And that was tough to run in those 2 pairs of shoes because I found that both of them had too many miles on them at that point. So they were both getting a little worn, and I didn't have any other shoes with me, which sucked. Let's see. Dean, did you really sleep on a run? From Melaine02. I cannot answer for Dean, but I will say that I'm guessing it's 100% true because I think he wrote about it. I remember actually reading about him running down the middle of the road and then realizing he woke up while he was doing it, so I imagine that's true. Oh yeah, that's sweet. I'm not going to drink any more of that. Sorry guys, just want to scroll through. I'm going to go way back in the chat room because I know there was a lot of stuff early on that we missed. Dean's article on recovery not being a big deal was eye-opening from Jim McGuckin. I agree. I read that, and that was actually on my list of questions to ask him about recovery. He seems to recover almost instantly, and I know a lot of people that is a similar thing, where recovery for them is within a day. They're ready to go the next day, and I don't know if that's a learned thing where you can teach your body to recover faster, or if it's just a natural ability that some people have over others. I know that right now my body is toasted from last week running. I mean, I probably logged 65 miles. That's it over the course of the week. It took 2 days off, but it was the terrain, the technical terrain, the ups and downs on the different climbs that I did just completely destroyed me. My legs, my knees, everything is just tired. So I took another day off today just because I felt like my body needed it. So yeah, I think for me, recovery is an essential part of my training. Hopefully someday I won't need as much recovery. Hopefully I can run 7 days a week and do the 150-mile weeks. Has Dean done Hard Rock? Oh, I don't know. I wanted to ask him that. I don't know if he's done Hard Rock. I imagine it's been on his list if he hasn't done it. I need a Nike trail hat. What up with one, Vargo? Oh yeah, Chris Vargo. Thanks for joining, man. Thanks for jumping in the chat there. Chris Bull says half PR in Montana this weekend. 145, fourth in age group, and 30 out of 1,400. Dude, that's incredible. Well done. Well done on the PR. Hi guys, I'm thinking of doing a marathon over a 3-day period in September on a treadmill for charity. Any advice? Kevin from Ireland. Yeah, I mean, train up to that because you're going to want to do, in my opinion, since you're doing a back-to-back, essentially 3 marathons back-to-back, you're going to want to train your body to be ready for that. Because I think doing, one long run on the weekend and that's like your long distance run isn't going to be enough. I think you're going to need to do either 2 long runs on the weekend, like a Saturday, Sunday, and include a Friday, or include a Monday recovery run. So you're going to want to do, I don't know what the distances would be leading up to that, but probably like a 20 and an 18 and then maybe a 10, real easy, before or after the back-to-backs. You're going to want to train your body to be ready to sleep, recover, get ready the next day, and run the distance again. All right. Now I'm going to start scrolling down towards the more recent stuff. This stuff is way too sweet. I got to stop. Yeah, it's way too sweet. I can't do it anymore. It's too sweet. Yeah, sweet. What GPS watch is recommended? Says me. I'm rocking the Cinto. This is the Ambit 2. It's been great. It's been absolutely great for everything that I've needed it to do. Now that it links up with Strava, it's easy. It's totally easy, which is great. I love this watch. I use the Phoenix. I have not used the Phoenix 2. The Phoenix is fine. I had a lot of issues with it later in the use cycle, so I had to retire it pretty early. Chris Rock decided to use the Terra Tiger for Western States. Doing my first 50-mile race July 4th because of Dean. Nice. Great job. What up, everybody? Says Thad Sweet. His calf looks like a map of the Rockies. That's funny. I should have told him that. I didn't see that. That's great. Great. Grab a headlamp. Go run all night. Kick-ass, Dean. Midnight Madness in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Chris Fargo says he's flying out to States next Thursday and staying until the Wednesday after. Dean, thanks for all the inspiration of the years. You are amazing and leading the way with so many folks out here. I couldn't agree more. What up, son? My roommate just got home. No. Oh, I brought the hose out. I did it like 30 minutes ago. Yeah. How How do you successfully fuel on the run? Oh, okay, that was a Colin question from earlier. Okay, now I'm just scrolling down through the stuff I already read. Dean or Ethan, what would you say was your motivation through the hardships? I'm guessing during the low points in races. Dean kind of touched on that during the interview tonight. It's fairly the same for me. I'm kind of going through the process of figuring that out as well. Using the knowledge that I've been in tough situations before and using that to make sure that I know that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to be able to get out of it again. And also, the more it happens, the more you know exactly what to do in those given situations, and you just kind of have to suffer through it. When you're running ultras, and primarily, you know you're going to have lows, so you know that the lows are usually followed by highs, unless they're followed by lower lows. So you got to be ready for those, but then they usually are followed by highs. So if you're having a good time, it won't last long. If you're having a bad time, it won't last long. Similar quote that people use all the time. Dean, thanks so much for tonight. Wondering what you think of the maximalist shoes that are showing up. I'm guessing Hoka's and stuff like that. I gotta ask him stuff like that. We'll ask him next time. Dean, what do you think? Oh yeah, we asked him that one. It's almost easier to run the 200-mile relay on your own. Ridiculous. Attaboy, Dean. If you could choose one single food item to eat on your next long run, what would it be? If it could be any food item and it would fuel me for an entire run and I didn't have to worry about it, pizza. Obviously, pizza. But if I had to choose a food item that would actually fuel me, it'd probably be like an almond butter, a nut butter, like the chocolate haze, the Pocket Fuel Natural chocolate haze is just my jam right now. I love it. It tastes like Nutella. It's way too sweet. Meal to meal outside of running, what would your typical diet be? Do you find certain foods affect your runs? There was an article that I actually read on Dean where he showed people his fridge, and he had some real simple stuff in there. It wasn't like he was going too extravagant or anything or any weird supplements. He was just using real food, but it was interesting. I'm sure you can find the article just Googling Dean Karnazes fridge, maybe. For me, I tend to be a little bit more lax in my diet, which is bad. I need to make sure that I dial it in and get the right foods in the right times of day, the right quantities during the day, all that kind of stuff. It all affects recovery, and that basically goes back to what I was talking about. I live in flat West Texas with no hills and no trails, just flat oil field roads with lots of wind. I live vicariously through y'all's story. I have no choice but to be a road runner. Yeah, I mean, I don't know really what to say other than maybe scheduling runcations, vacations that take you to running paradises, where maybe you're going into mountains. I do that often, even if it's just for a weekend, or going camping in a location. I know that all of Texas isn't all flat. There are parts of Texas that do have mountains, or even big canyons, and I know that there's states around Texas that also have that. So plan a weekend. I don't know if you have a 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday, but perhaps you have a couple days off a week where you can take a Saturday, Sunday, drive out on a Friday night, take Saturday, Sunday, and run up in the hills and do some exploring. Make it a runcation. I thrive off those. I love it. Russell Anderson, good advice. Taking it all in, Dean. I bet Sally is not the kind of person to let that experience get by her, even when she's kicking ass. Totally agree, Russell. Yeah, Sally is by far one of the most absorb the surroundings at that moment type of runners that I know. If she's not whipping out her cell phone, taking selfies and taking photos of the environment, someone else around her is. She surrounds herself with good people, and it's going to be an incredible experience for her. Really, really excited. Shout out for Into the Wind. Great flick. I got to watch that. I don't think I've seen it, but I'm very familiar with the story, which is incredible. That is amazing to choose your father as your idol. Even better. Awesome show, Ethan and Dean. Thanks, Marilyn. Appreciate it. Great show. Thanks, Russell. Amazing show. Great job. Loved it. Thanks, Lane. Dean makes me feel horrible about my 8 miles today. I need to step it up. Pirate Brad, there's no such thing as small distance. There's no such thing as being ashamed about putting in miles. You put in miles. You got out the door. You got off the couch. Victories, man. Victories. Question for post-show. How did you get out of the moral rut in your training? I went out for a 10-mile today and only did the first loop of 5 miles, stopping for no apparent reason. John, this happens a lot for me, especially lately. It's just been It's just been tough. It's been like you'll go through phases of just not being able to go the same distances that you were before. It could mean that your body just needs to recover a little bit. Maybe you pushed it hard the week before. Maybe you did more speed work or more hills than you were used to or more miles. So you just need to give your body that little bit of a break or a little bit of recovery period or more sleep. Maybe you weren't sleeping. I find that tends to help for the most part. I did a big mileage week for me, which was 93 miles, which I have not gotten to that number before in a training cycle of just running. So that happened about 5 weeks ago, and I'm still feeling the repercussions of that. Like this last week in Squamish it was fine. I was able to run, and I felt good in some of the days, but I was only able to run 5 of the 7 days, which is not normal for me. Usually it's 6 or 7. That was greatness, says Tony. Yeah, I totally agree. Fucking greatness. Has my mic been that shitty the entire time? I'm just now listening to some of the audio from the podcast, and it sounds like my mic has been terrible the entire time. No one said anything about that in the comments. I can't believe it. Oh, shit. I'm sorry, there's a lot more comments. Looks like it didn't update quite as frequently. There we go. I really enjoyed the first training for Squamish video. Keep them coming, Ethan. I will, Marilyn. Thank you. No, I missed it. Sorry, Matt. Yeah, missed it. Sniff, thanks for the reviews, interviews, and GR Live. You got it, Sniff. I was going to ask him what he thought of the Ultra in Calgary. Ethan, nice ECS bib. Which side is it on? That one? Yeah. Yeah, I'll be returning to that race in December, as will Dean. Ginger, you doing any speed work? A little bit. Yeah, I'm dealing with some nagging like injury stuff, so I'm trying to take it easy on the speed work because that aggravates it. Russell, cheers, Ethan. I'm doing Haagen-Dazs. Haagen-Dazs? I don't know what that is. If you're doing Haagen-Dazs like ice cream, that's delicious. John, own it. Have you used one? I heard it is good for rehab and cross training. I have not. I've been on one once to see if I could do an elliptigo, it's what I'm guessing you were talking about. And it was the most awkward thing I've been on. However, it was because it was new, and I haven't even done like an elliptigo or elliptical in as long as I can remember. Late to the party. Oh, rib cough. Oh, it's okay. When you come up to try Two Rivers cider. Oh, yeah. I actually just had some Seattle Cider Company cider this last week. That's what got me into the cider thing, and this is not nearly as good as that was. Are you planning on wearing the same shoes for the 50-50? I haven't decided. I'll probably bring 3 or 4 pairs, some as backups for that particular day. I think both days I'm going to be taking fairly moderately. So I know for a fact the second day I'm going to want to probably have more cushion shoes just to kind of take it easier on my feet and my legs. Chris Fargo, great show, Ethan. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Thank you. Steven, 434 miles, 6 finished in front of me. Guess it's time to start ultras. 434 mile. That's fast. Ethan, Dean mentioned cross training. What kind of cross training do you do? I do a lot of core work, and like right now it's a lot of strength training in the sense of like planks, push-ups, pull-ups, like real basic CrossFit type stuff, but nowhere near like I don't even know why I use that word. What do they call them? Plyometrics or whatever? I use my own body weight for the strength. Oh, my friend Destiny says, your mic sounds fine. That's good, but even if it's a little staticky, look at this mic, guys. It shouldn't be staticky at all. Has it been that way the entire time, guys? Huh. What the fuck was that all about? How do you know when your shoes are worn out, Ben? Fox says. You'll usually know because they'll feel flat. They won't have the same life that they had before, and you'll want to rotate shoes out, any 200 to 300 miles, regardless. They could be shredding, or the outsole could be completely worn flat. You'll know. You'll know when they're done. But if you get past 200 or 300 miles and you're like, oh, these are still good, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. Just take a second glance, because most shoes tend to wear out around that stage, unless you're like perfect running gait, super light, efficient runner type person, and then you can get hundreds more sometimes. sometimes. And in some brands of shoes, they claim you can get thousands of miles. Maybe. Maybe. So it depends. Chris Vargo, if anyone needs coaching, hit me up at vargorunning@gmail. Shameless plug. Total shameless plug, Chris. Especially when some people might be like, who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? He hasn't been on Ginger Runner in forever. So come on. Come on the show. Mike Sears, got into Kuyamaka 100K. Any training or course advice? Your video was great. Train hard. Race harder. And then party hardest. It's not super technical. There's a couple stretches that are pretty technical, but I would say maybe 5 to 10 miles of the entire 62-mile course is technical. It's a lot of really runnable stuff. Be ready for the second loop. The second loop is the killer, which is mile 31 to 45, I think. Ish. 46. 31 to 46 or something like that. Way to power through on that sweet cider. Stay black. Marilyn Blythe, I was one of 10 in a 230-mile relay over a weekend in April. I cannot imagine running the entire thing myself. What is the mile relay? Does that mean people rotate? You're running a mile, or are you talking about 4x1? So you're each running a mile, or is it 1x4? That doesn't make sense. Have you ever tried Jelly Belly Sports Beans for refueling? They suck. Yeah, they do. They're candy. They're candy. Who run in the Chicago Marathon? It's Shabam. There we go. The hill country in Texas is awesome for running and cycling. Yeah, I agree. Summer Morales. I met Dean a few weeks ago at a 5K here in Dallas. Yes, Ultramarathon man runs 5Ks. He was as amazing in person as he was on your show. Totally agree. Ethan, got any advice for making sure I'm okay for my 5K in 2 weeks after my half marathon? Finally, all recovered, but when I was in Philly walking around, it would kind of hurt a bit. Continue to take it easy, Matt. Continue to take it easy. Don't push the training and stuff like that. But if you're coming off of a half marathon, which was a couple weeks ago, I believe, for you, your body should be okay. Have you been running, or have you been doing anything in the meantime? 2/3 day run, 2 to 3 day runcation in Zion in November. Ginger, come join. That sounds magical. Sounds awesome. I need to go to Zion. Zion looks like one of those bucket list places for sure. Definitely want to go to Zion. What was I going to say? I want to go to Grand Canyon too. I know that that's going to happen in that period of time as well. I'll answer a couple more questions. This is way too sweet. And then I will log out of tonight's episode. I'm looking for a marathon to do in the fall. Just asking, why are you against the rock and roll series? At least I think you have said something about that. How to answer this? I had a terrible experience at a rock and roll marathon. I've heard terrible experiences from other people who have run rock and roll marathons. Google Rock and Roll Marathon Las Vegas 2012, and you'll see what I mean. I haven't run one in years, so for all I know, the company has changed. They are 100% a for-profit company that looks to cut corners wherever possible, in my opinion, based off of my experience running their races. Again, it's been a number of years. But other people have said the same thing. You should bring Vargo into the after show. Yeah, he's gone already. Dude's gone. Yeah, it's been static the whole time. Noticed it, then Dee did most of the talking, so I forgot. Okay, good. When are you going to have Sally and Chris back on? It's always fun seeing them on your live show. You ask them. Ask them. No tips, really. Just enjoy the scenery, says Sydney Johnston. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I don't know what's going on with the mic. I'm going to refresh this chat room one more time and see if that mic is still activating. Oh, no. It probably is. Oh, no. Why would it be static? I'm sorry, guys. That sucks. All right, let's go through this chat room one last time. Sorry, it takes a while to scroll. Tight start. No tips really, just enjoy the scenery. Tight start. How many calories do you try to take in per hour? Anywhere from 200 to 400, depending on the exertion level, but that'll change per person. 10 people, 230 miles over 30 hours. I ran 18 miles of the distance. Oh, okay, I got you. That's interesting. So Marilyn, you're talking about you each ran, so you basically ran a mile, rotated through 10 people, and then ran another mile and rotated through, like, so you would run a mile at a time? Or it's a 230-mile relay? So you're doing the vans and stuff like that. Damn, I'm sorry guys, that crackling, I don't know where that's coming from. I wish I did. I wish I could fix it. Because that sucks. On the Dean Karnazes episode, too. Can't believe it. No, I mean, just color me red. It was just a bit of pain in my right thigh. Okay, I wouldn't worry about it, Matt. I think it's fine. Just don't push. You know, if it starts hurting real bad and it feels like an injury happening, don't worry about it. Don't push it too hard. Great Ginger Runner live tonight. Ditto for your 50-50 training vid. Go get him, Ginger, says Russell over on the Twitters. Best Ginger Runner live ever. Dean Karnazes, thanks so much for sharing the stories and wisdom, says Samuel. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. What place will you plan to run? What pace will you plan to run? What pace? What for what? Thomas over on Twitter. What for what pace do you refer to? All right, guys. I am actually going to wrap up the show. This mic thing is driving me crazy. I don't know why it's happening. I wish I knew it was happening earlier on in the episode or even before the show. I can't believe I missed it. That drives me crazy. So sorry, guys. So sorry. If you want to run North Face ECS Ontario July 12th, let me know. Great show, Ethan. Thanks, Guillaume. Guillaume, calmette. Love it that you are watching, bro. We'll see you at Western, too. Do you mix your tailwind strong to get that many calories? No, I try not to because it gets real salty sweet if you mix tailwind too strong. I wish they didn't make it so flavored. Even the non-flavored one has a bit of a flavor. But I love tailwind. I've been using that shit like crazy. It's good. All right, cool. Well, that is it, everybody. I, again, appreciate you very much for tuning in to the Dean Karnazes episode. I'm sorry for the mic crackling. I don't know why that's happening. It's very new, and it hasn't happened in past episodes, so don't know what's going on. And don't forget to tune in next Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be our Western States video live version episode. We're going to, hopefully, I want to get Sally on. She was supposed to join us last week, but she had a meeting, so she wasn't able to make it. So hopefully she can come on next Monday, so we can actually talk about the plan, since I'll be helping crew her at the race, and maybe we can get Vargo on, because I know that he is going to be crewing with Varner, I believe. So maybe we can get Varner on. Maybe we can get some other people who are running Western on. Make it a big Western party. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be nuts. That's it. So subscribe to the channel, guys. YouTube.com/TheGingerRunner. You're already here. You're already watching the episode. Just click the subscribe button, and you can see all the videos as they are posted every single week. Again, I just did a training video. Go ahead and watch that. I posted it on Saturday morning, but it's on the YouTube channel. You can watch that. And Twitter, @TheGingerRunner. Facebook, Facebook.com/TheGingerRunner. Over on GingerRunner.com. On Instagram, I'm @Ethan Newberry. Go, subscribe, have fun, link, comment. Let's chat offline. I have sweaty pits. Look at that. I'm boiling in here. I'm a mess. I'm a terrible ginger mess. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in live and being here every single week and supporting what I do. This is really great. Love it. You guys are awesome. I hope you guys are getting out there training hard, racing harder, and partying the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Train, race, beer, or cider. It's really fucking sweet. Bye.